there's a wall with people signing names, and I put the Bitcoin price at the time. It was July, I think 26 or 28 of 2014. And guess what price Bitcoin was at the time? 450. Yeah, exactly. It's around 400. I have. Let me check my my photo. It was at $590, right around there, $590, and that was July 28, 4 years ago. So today Bitcoin's over $6,000. If I had told someone at the time that Bitcoin would go up 10x in 4 years, I don't think anyone would believe me, right? But today I'll tell you that Bitcoin actually can go up another 10x in the next 4 years. Anyone believe me? You, just one or two people sitting way in the back. Huh?
It's too low.
Even 10x is too low. I agree with you. So today, maybe after this, I'm gonna go, add a mark to it. Says, 2018, the price is now $6,000s of dollars, and we'll come back in 4 years later, see if it's at $60,000. So I'm very happy. Thank you for inviting me to speak here at the Bitcoin Meetup. And sounds like do we have 45 minutes, an hour? I'll probably do 30 to 45 minutes of structured talk, and then I'll do some open Q&A. I love these meetups because it's more relaxed. I don't have to wear my suit, and there's no stage, so there's no stage fright. There's no spotlights and stuff like that, and a nice big screen. Except the microphone's a little bit too loud. Okay, so this is one of my favorite talks. I first gave this in Ukraine, in Kiev, about a month or 2 months ago. So unless you went to my talk in Kiev, you probably didn't see this. You haven't seen this, unless you watched the YouTube event. So essentially the talk is my culmination of a lot of topics. It's what I call the impact of Bitcoin to society. And it's about ownership, control, and ultimately it's about freedom. Okay, you ready to start? Okay, ownership model. Let's talk about that. Ownership model, what I mean by that is, how do we own things? We all own different things in our lives. We all have, some of us are rich, some of us are poor, but I don't care how poor or how rich you are. You own things only based on two ways. So the most important is called identity-based ownership. The idea is that the things you own is tied to your identity. Think about the home, the real estate you own. Think about the bank accounts. It's all in your name. The brokerage accounts, the bond, if you have bonds, right? If you have cars, I'm sure everyone here has cars, unless you're renting, like me. It's all owned by your name. And if you have boats and airplanes, it's all owned by name. So your identity is very, very important. Because today, in our society, in our modern world, the vast majority... Oh, hello. All right, I'll just go without a microphone. Is that okay? Okay, so the vast majority of what we own today is all by name. And that's why there's identity theft. Fraudsters, cheaters out there want to mimic your identity. They steal your identity to steal your assets. Whether it's bank accounts, writing checks, or I guess they can't steal cars this way, but essentially it's owned by name. One short story is actually 10 years ago, before I moved to China, 10, 12, 15 years ago, I had my car stolen in San Francisco, right? And what happened was, 2 days later, the Oakland police called me and said they found my car. And they called me because they found the car, it was registered in my name, and they knew who to call, and they found my car and they returned the car back to me. You see my point? So even though I had the car keys doesn't mean I have a car, and vice versa, someone having the car keys doesn't mean they own the car. Just like, same thing with homes. If you rented out, someone have the keys to your home, it doesn't mean they own it. It's owned by you in title. That's why its identity is important. That's why your driver license, that's why they check your name. That's why you have a passport. That's your social security number. Identity is so important in modern day society. The things that aren't owned by identity is all physical possession. So the other model is physical possession. So the clothes we wear, the eyeglasses, the jewelry, the watches, the iPhone you carry in your pocket, those are owned by physical possession. Even the red wine you have in your home, right? The beers, the diamonds, jewelry, and also artwork. Those are owned by physical possession. So today, it turns out, I think, there's no study, but I think 95% of all the assets are owned by identity, and only less than 5% are owned by physical possession. This did not always used to be the case.
So in human society for the last 5,000 years, for the vast majority, we own things physically. That's why in the old days, people who had big castles, they would have to hire guards to guard the castle. Because if you don't guard the castle, an invading army came in and took over the castle, well, sorry, now it's their castle. You got kicked out. So that's why rich people would have to have guards to hire the castle and build moats, right? So literally, even back then, real estate was owned by physical possession. You literally had an army outside to hold your fort down. So with modern society, with the police force, law enforcement, now, my car is owned by my name, so, if it gets stolen, it'll get returned back to me, okay? That's with modern government. Now, the point is, oh, this didn't work out well. The point is information is a new way to own things, okay? So with Bitcoin, we're adding a new way to own something. So up until 10 years ago, before Bitcoin was invented, there are only two ways to own something: physical possession or ownership by identity. Now we have a third way: ownership by information. As you know, with cryptocurrencies, we have this thing called a private key. Is that right? We have a tech audience here? Private key, mathematics, cryptography, private key. It's essentially a long password. By knowing that long password, you don't have to memorize it. You can have it on a piece of paper. You can have it on a USB drive in a file encrypted. You can have it, in a floppy disk or hard drive. By having that private key, you have control and access to those Bitcoins in that one account. And you might have multiple Bitcoin addresses, which means you have multiple private keys, and all of those private keys together is your ownership for the whole stash of Bitcoins you have. And this applies to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, whatever. All those cryptocurrencies out there essentially guarded by the private key. So now we're at the cusp of this revolution where for the first time, information is now ownership. So this is huge. How many of us have kids here? Yes, your kids, just like my children, and our grandchildren will have ownership by information in their mix of assets. Today, I don't know, do many of you own Bitcoin and crypto? Okay, some of you do. For those of you you didn't raise your hand, you can only own things by two ways. For those that you raised your hand, you're owning something by the third way. Now, I don't care about your mix. I'm not saying ownership by information will be 100% of your assets. That's not practical, right? But we're saying our children and grandchildren will start owning things by information by private key, and this is very important. If you don't believe me, ask your children. Okay, now control is the second topic. Why is control important? Because it turns out the prior two ways, which were the two ways to own things? By physical possession, who has control? Who has control when you own something of physical possession?
You do.
The owner, right? My watch, see, it's on my wrist. Unless you wrest it from my arms, this watch belongs to me. Now, if you did manage to steal it, rip it off from my arms, then you would have it, and you could run away, and the only thing I can do is come catch you. If I don't catch you, then you own it. But the thing about control is when you own things by identity, the car that I own, the home that I own, the bank accounts that I own, and the money in the bank accounts, it feels like it's my money, it feels like it's my house and my car, but in reality, there's always a third party involved. Think about that. The fact that it's tied to your name, it means that someone else, hopefully a neutral person, will judge you to see if you are who you really are. And then based on their judgment, they will allow you access to the assets that you own. That's why when I go to the bank, I can't just say, hey, my name is Bobby Lee, Wells Fargo Bank, you have my money, come on, give me some money back. Right? I can't do that. What do? They ask me to prove myself. One is to bring my bank card, the other is to have my ID, my driver's license. That's why identity is so important. ID cards, passports, driver's license. And the point is that they have control. And if you don't believe me, look, okay, one more thing before we go to the examples. All the financial companies have control over assets. That's why they're called custodians, okay? So all the stocks you have in your brokerage account, all the money you have in the bank accounts, all of that is actually at the mercy of these financial institutions. Even your real estate is at the mercy of the city government. In China, it's notorious, okay? I own a home, my family own a home in Shanghai. I live in China. And when they put restrictions on who can buy and sell the home, ultimately what happens is it affects the value of my home. Right now in China, they don't allow foreigners to buy unless you have a working visa there. And secondly, is they don't allow people to buy more than one home. What does that do to prices? Right? It's no longer free market. It's like artificial suppressed prices because I can't buy a second home, you know. And then if you're, and this is an even funnier story, is each person can buy one home, and the other rule is each couple can buy one home. So if you're two single people dating, you can buy two homes individually. But if you're married, you can only buy one home. Now, if you happen to have two homes, you sell one, you can't buy the other one back. So what people do is they go through fake divorces. Really, it's happening. They go through fake divorces and then you can buy the second home. It's really, really messed up. It doesn't, hopefully it doesn't happen in Palo Alto, or maybe they should have to do that in Palo Alto. So all financial institutions actually have full control of your money, okay? And this is even true for digital things like online rewards, like airline miles, hotel reward points, credit card points. You have all those, right? Coupons, gift cards, all those digital rewards and digital sort of points are all controlled by the company. It's at their mercy, and we acknowledge it. That's why I don't throw my excess money into those points. Like, who here, you know, I spend my real money to buy Bitcoin, but who here would spend their paycheck and buy United Airlines miles or Hilton reward points? Anyone? It would be silly, right? Why would you buy Disney dollars when it's controlled by Disneyland, right? Same kind of concept, right? So that's why Disney dollars went away, by the way. Okay, so this is the real situation, okay? Anyone from Europe here? Cyprus, anyone?
Yes.
Anyone know of Cyprus? Really? Okay, so you can stand up and tell us whether this is true. So Greece, Cyprus, well, two different countries, right?
Yeah, but they got Greek bonds. The Cyprus banks bought Greek bonds. The Greek government said, we're not going to pay you, which is fair. So the Cyprus banks went to the government and said, oh, they're not going to pay us, so we're going to get your money. Sorry, have a nice day.
Exactly. This is 2013. In March of 2013, Cyprus went through a budget crisis because of the defaulting Greek bonds. And then they said, well, since you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to pay my bank deposit holders. So what happened was they said, I can go to the Bank of Cyprus, and for all the rich people who have more than 100,000 euros in deposits, they're going to do a haircut. Normally a haircut we do once a month, right, at the barber shop. But this kind of haircut is not, you don't want to be involved. What happens is the government actually will cut off 10, 20, 30% of your bank deposits over 100,000 euros.
It went up to 40%.
It went up 40%. It was a crazy proposal. When they proposed that, it was like crazy. People lined up in ATMs and got the cash out. And these are the poor people. These are not the people who got affected because rich people don't line up in ATMs. Right? So the poor people all lined up in ATMs, they're just fearful that they're going to tax their, take away their money. And all of a sudden, a euro was not the same. A euro in a German bank account was worth more than a euro in a Cyprus bank account. So this is what's crazy about when governments have control over your money. So ultimately, I think they ended up forcing all the rich people to take share ownership of the Cyprus banks. It's also like a bail-in, bail-out kind of thing. But it's a crazy idea that they can even propose that. So the other thing is the cash in our pockets, right? So let me ask you this. The cash in our pockets, show you a $100 bill. Is this in my physical possession, or is ownership by possession, or is it ownership by identity?
Neither.
Possession.
Well, it turns out
Possession.
it's a complicated question.
Neither
It's
possession.
ownership by possession. It turns out the paper is ownership by possession.
Yeah.
I could tear it apart, I could put it in my mouth, I could put it in my wallet, I could put it in my mattress. But turns out, the paper is not worth much. It's the value of the paper that's worth the money. So the $100, the purchasing power, is actually not owned by possession. It turns out the government, the central bank, controls that. And if they do a bad job, or if the country loses in a big war, guess what? The value, what happens? Disappears. The paper is still there, like these old German Deutschmarks. Right? If you have it, good luck. Like the Zimbabwe $100 billion, the paper's still there, but the value is gone, and that's why it's $100 billion. It used to be, Zimbabwe dollar used to be close to the value of US dollar, and then through hyperinflation, $1,000, $10,000, $250,000, $1 million, $100 million, $100 billion, and this is not the worst. I think the biggest one was 100 trillion. You can buy it on eBay. And the same thing's happening in Venezuela. Venezuela, the 100 bolivar. Anyone Venezuela? Yeah, see? I don't know why you're pumping your hand. This is what? Am I speaking the truth, or are you happy that's happening?
It is, it's happening.
It's happening, it's crazy. And they actually, not only did the value disappear, they actually banned this note. Is that true? The 100 bolivar, they don't allow it anymore.
They don't allow it anymore.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Governments can come and arbitrarily take away the value of money. And don't think it's like, far away places like Zimbabwe and Venezuela. We're talking about real developed countries like India. Late 2016. Anyone from India here? They just took away. They said, oh, non grata, the 500 and the 1,000 rupee. If you have it, too bad. They gave some good reasons. Oh, money laundering. But the reality, what it really hurt is the poor people who actually have the money. Sure, some rich people have the money too, but it's really, I think it's a terrible way, it's a terrible tax on society just to cancel notes. And don't you think it's just India? Another country would be the United Kingdom. Would you believe me that modern day United Kingdom, Great Britain, actually canceled banknotes? Do you believe me if I said that? They did. They canceled the £5 note. I had one. I quickly, paid for something. No, it's true. They canceled the £5 note because the old £5 note was paper-based. They had new ones that were polymer-based, the classic ones. And they're going to cancel the £10 note too. Okay? It's really crazy. Really, Western developed countries are also canceling banknotes. So they can suck the value out of it. You can still be holding on to stacks of these paper notes and they suck the value out. Okay? The United States hasn't done that yet. We'll see when they do it. So our future is actually with digital assets, okay? And digital assets are assets where you own it by information, by knowing the private key. You don't have to memorize it. It's on a USB drive, on a Ledger hardware wallet, on a paper wallet backup. It could be on your computer. It could be written down on a Post-it note, your password, your passphrase, ultimately your private key, okay? If you don't believe me, don't worry. We don't have to change in this generation, but I'm for sure confident that our children and our grandchildren will have a larger and larger percentage of their assets that they truly control, they have the private key to. There are pros and cons, so we'll talk about some of that as well. Okay, and what we're saying is mathematics is finally becoming trust. Mathematics is becoming trust, okay? We're trusting mathematics more than we trust the government, okay? Because it turns out 1 + 1 = 2, right? 2 + 3 = 4. 4 times 4 is 16. This kind of mathematics, the basis of cryptography, will be around for my great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren. But who knows if the country of England, the country of the United States, the country of India, the country of Venezuela, who knows if those governments and those countries will be around when my great-great-great-grandchildren roam the earth, okay? So information is not ownership. Think about that. This is huge. This is the single biggest reason why Bitcoin has been so successful. Okay, people don't understand it. They think, oh, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptography, cryptocurrency. But the truth is, this is a new way of ownership, and it's only starting. And I came to this realization myself. It's not like I read some book that says Bitcoin is a new ownership model. I've been in Bitcoin since 2011. I've been running a company since 2013. And last year, I was asked to give a TED talk. And I was thinking, what should I talk about? Should I talk about products? And I finally had to talk about Bitcoin. And I was asking, it was stumping myself, what's truly innovative and revolutionary about Bitcoin? This is it. It's a new ownership model. Very few people talking about it because the people who do talk are the financial institutions, the system, our big brother system. And you know what? If everyone realizes this is a new ownership model, we're all going to move our assets away from what? From their controlled system to our own freedom system. And that's what's happening. Today, I'm proud to say I own, I don't want to say how much I own, but I own a larger percentage of my net wealth in ownership, in information-based ownership versus the traditional ownership where they have control. But old school people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, their net wealth is all tied in what? The traditional ownership.
Fiat.
That's why they dismiss Bitcoin. That's why they diss it, okay? All right, so freedom of money, this is a new concept, okay? This is a term that it's not like I invented it, but I've been spreading this word, freedom of money. The idea is that we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of information, we have human rights, we have equal civil rights and all that good stuff. But what we really miss, and what we're missing today, is freedom of money. What is freedom of money? Freedom of money is the idea that I can do whatever the hell I please with my money. Okay? Now, well, can I? What do you guys think? Can I? Well, see, it's a very scary and very slippery slope. Now, can I buy drugs and marijuana in California? Yes, I can buy marijuana now. But turns out if I buy marijuana in a different state, I'll get arrested because that's against the law. Can I buy a gun and shoot up some people? Right? So shooting up people, that's the illegal part. And I agree with that. Murder should not be allowed. Murder should be a felony. It depends.
Where you shoot them, yeah.
But it depends where you shoot them. I like that. Yeah. But the point is buying the gun. So I'm not a gun advocate or whatever. Maybe that's a bad example. But the action of buying something should not be illegal. The action of using the illegal thing for some bad purposes, that should be illegal. So the point is freedom of money. My point is that I should be able to give any of you money however I want. Now there might be gift taxes, there might be income taxes. Yes, pay the taxes. You pay it, I pay it, we all pay it. That's how we fund the government. But the point is, we should not have the government tell me what I can do or what I cannot do with my money. That's what I find wrong. And more so in the past, they did that. In the past, because they have control over bank accounts, they actually control what you can and cannot do. So I recently sold my company and I transferred some money to Hong Kong from Wells Fargo Bank. They gave me so much trouble for wiring some money to Hong Kong. They're asking me what I'm going to do with it. I'm like, what's your business? It's my money. See the name on the account, Bobby Christopher Lee, it's my money. You can help me wire. I'm going to pay you the money, the wire transfer fee to wire. And they kept asking me questions. It's like they want to hold on to the money and not let it go. It's really like that. So this is going to be a bigger issue down the road because when crypto takes off, when all of us have our own kind of money, and when we want to shift it to crypto, the existing banking system will really be afraid and they will really try to stop us. So we've had freedom of money for the last 10 years now. We're in the 10th year of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was invented in 2009. The white paper came out in 2008. So this October, November will be the 10th year anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. It's a huge deal. But the white paper was just a concept. The real Bitcoin came out in January 2009. So in 6 months, we're going to have the 10-year anniversary birthday of Bitcoin. That's when we first have freedom of money. Think about this. Before 10 years ago, none of us could have moved money around the world without someone else auditing, controlling, asking stupid questions or nosy questions. But now, and it's true, now we can move money just however we want. These days, I do a lot of public speaking at conferences, and what happens is, I ask them to pay me, right? It's just really hard for them to pay me through the banking system. It's crazy. I spoke, so this slide, originally I spoke at the Ukraine conference, they're going to pay me, and they said they sent it to my bank account, and like 3 days later, 5 days later, it didn't show up. It just never showed up. It just never showed up. The wire transfer was done incorrectly or whatever, or maybe they didn't want to take money from Ukraine or something. And finally I said, hey, I'm like beginning to be suspicious, like this Ukrainian company, are they serious? Are they going to pay me or not? But they said they paid me. So I finally said, okay, let's just pay me in Bitcoin. And then literally minutes later, I got it. Everything was cool. Right. Now, since then, the Bitcoin price has come down. But no worries. I don't worry about that because long term it's going to go up. Okay, so Bitcoin, freedom of money. It's about freedom. It's a digital asset. I'm going to go through some points that we all know. First of all, it has 21 million units. We all know that, right? Bitcoin ultimately will have 21 million. Today, there's only 17 million Bitcoins in existence. And by the way, these are not whole Bitcoins. They could be smaller amounts. You can have a tenth of a Bitcoin. You can have a 20th of a Bitcoin. You can have 0.05 Bitcoins. Okay, so you could buy Bitcoin in whatever amount. You could buy $100, exactly $100 US worth of Bitcoin, and you'll get like 0.0169, something like that. Okay, it's based on information and math. That's it. It's not some government. It's not some language. It's not some institution you have to trust. It's not Bobby Lee. I'm not the face of Bitcoin. You don't have to trust me. You can verify Bitcoin for yourself because it's just math and the blockchain. It's borderless and global. This is great. I consider myself a global citizen. I was born in Africa. My parents are Chinese. I've lived in America. That's why I'm Chinese African American. I speak American English. Okay, so the point is truly global and borderless. Okay, for the first time you have something that spans the whole Earth. It can even go into space, okay? We're talking about geography, we're talking about culture, language, it spans everything, crosses everything. It doesn't care about gender, it doesn't care about sexual orientation, it doesn't care about if you're old or young, it doesn't care even if you're a human or a dog. Your pets can own Bitcoin, okay? If you buy physical Bitcoins like this, that has a private key on the back, I'll tell you about this later, even your pets can own Bitcoin, seriously, when my baby was born, I gifted her some Bitcoins. She doesn't know it yet, but I prepared some Bitcoins as a gift for her. Okay, so it's not identity-based. This is a killer, okay? Think about this. People always say that's a bad thing. Oh, Bitcoin is anonymous. You don't know who owns it, da-da-da-da-da-da. But it's a great thing. Think about it. The thesis I said earlier is, for anything that's tied to your name, it always involves a third person. Think about airlines. These days, you can't even fly anonymously. When you buy an airline ticket, it has to be in your name. And what happens when you go to the airport? They ask you for your ID. And if it's mismatched, they won't let you on the plane. Right? Why do they do that? Well, I don't know.
Security.
But I know why they do it in China. In China, they do it because certain people are not allowed to fly. So if you have your airline ticket, even if you purchased it and paid for it, at the airport you show up, you're the name on the blacklist, the no-fly list, you're not going through. Someone else has control. You see my point? Even you've paid for the airline ticket, someone else can stop you from flying. And it's not just airlines, it's also true for train tickets in China, right? It's really about government control. So like we don't have this problem here. Like when you go on a bus, take the Muni or whatever, take the BART, you don't have that problem here in the US. But in other countries, you really do have that problem. When everything's tied to your name, you could be blacklisted. Essentially, you could be declared person non grata and not be able to do anything in society because you're blacklisted, right? It's a very slippery slope. You want Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein to be blacklisted, but at the same time, there's no judge and jury. It's just like someone decided that they're on the blacklist and that's it. Okay, so finally, no third-party control. And this is the most important part. Because it's not identity-based, that's why you get no third-party control. Because once it's tied to an ID, then someone has to verify. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so that means for the first time now, I can send Bitcoin to anyone in the world or anyone in this room without asking permission from a bank officer from Wells Fargo Bank, without asking permission from FinCEN, from the SEC, from the mayor of Sunnyvale. I could just send you money, you can send me money. That's freedom of money. That's what I talk about. Okay, ones and zeros. That's all it is. Now information is money. So we've had, I see a few people staring intently, what is it? Is it binary for some secret message? Okay, well it's true, it's true. So since computers were first invented in the early 20th century, in the 1900s, right? First there were use of code breakers for the war and stuff like that. But think about this. We are using the same digital computers for the last 100 years. It's just that the information has been used for different things. In the early days, information was for transmittal of what? Of information, for communications. The earliest applications were coded messages, telegram, right? And then it was fax machines, and then it was, voice over IP. And then after that, we're using information for entertainment. Digital music, right? MP3s, remember that, 1997. Digital photography, right, in the 90s. Now it's like, streaming movies, HD 4K, all that stuff. It's great. So information is both for communication, but up until Bitcoin, information was never for value transfer. Because you could always just copy information. Think about it, you can just copy this, right? PowerPoint, just copy it, and you give it away. That's why the blockchain is so important. With the blockchain, information can be copied and duplicated around the world. But for the first time, you can give information just by giving, you can give money, give value by giving information. Okay? I'm gonna give you guys $100. You guys ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready? Okay, but I'm not gonna do it the old way. I think she knows what's going on.
QR code.
The old way would be just to throw it out there and see who catches it, okay? But the new way is actually through a Bitcoin account, okay? And the way to do that is I could either show you the ones and zeros, or I can even blink to you. So if I blink, that could be the Morse code encoding of what? Of my Bitcoin wallet private key, right? Think about that. It could be through text message. It could be through tapping my feet, right? So really, there's no way to censor this. This is great for humanity, freedom of information. This is why Bitcoin is valuable, okay? But what I'm going to teach you is this is the QR code represents this address. It starts with 193HU, ends in PES. That's my Bitcoin account. Okay? If you want, I'll give you my Bank of America and Wells Fargo bank account number as well. I'll read it off to you. You can deposit as much money into it as you want. Yeah, exactly. Okay. You're up for? You want to try? You don't believe me? My Wells Fargo account number is 0666394754. It is. That's my Wells Fargo account number. Well, with an account number, you can't get money out. Okay. Now that's how you get money out. This is the private key of this account. The left side, and you can take money out on the right side. In fact, prior to this talk, I loaded up $100 worth of Bitcoin in here. And if you're fast and savvy enough, you can pull out $100 right from here, right now. Anyone did that yet? I really just did. By me showing this QR code, I've given you guys an equal chance access to $200 worth of Bitcoin. Right?
Let's go.
Who got it? Who got it? Someone got it?
Did you get it?
I don't know.
He just checked the wallet.
I just checked the wallet. It's empty.
It's empty? Is it there yet?
This is the slowest wall on the planet. I think
Here's how you trust me, okay? It's on the blockchain. You'll see on the blockchain that it was there, half an hour ago. And if it just disappeared 30 minutes ago, someone took it. Now, I actually reuse the secret code, so someone's out there. Either someone's following me to all my talks around the world, or someone kept the last address. They pulled it out, okay? It could be that, okay? I've given away thousands of dollars just going to talks. I give out $100 each time.
I saw him do this before. That's why I'm trying to execute.
Yeah. So if it's not someone in the room, next time I have to change the address. Okay.
We follow your schedule, so.
There you go. Okay, but this is the world, seriously. So with this private key, with this QR code, you could do global fundraising. Imagine the next disaster anywhere in the world. Red Cross or whatever, United Nations, UNICEF, can just put a QR code on TV, radio station, whatever, and anyone in the world, it doesn't matter what country, what religion, it doesn't matter what currency you use, can donate to a single cause. Okay? And likewise, by showing a QR code of a private key, it's like a lottery. Anyone in the world can take this money. So Bill Gates could have loaded up with $1 million to $10 million, and one lucky person could have gotten it. And the thing with blockchain is one person gets it, the second person has no chance. Right? Even though you have this private key still on the screen, but it's already gone. So that's the power of Bitcoin and blockchain. Okay, so Bitcoin for the first time is money in the cloud. We have music in the cloud, we have movies in the cloud, now we have money in the cloud. So all my Bitcoin, all your Bitcoin, it's all in the cloud, okay? So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter if you're awake or asleep or drunk or sober, your Bitcoin is in the cloud. It's the ultimate hard currency, okay? For people who've lived in countries other than the United States, you know that money is a big deal. Capital controls, all that stuff is a huge deal. So people prefer hard currencies. That's why in many countries people still hold on to US dollars because they perceive it as safe, as value storing. But I much rather have Bitcoin, wherever I work, wherever I live. So it's the ultimate hard currency. Bitcoin is actually about investing in the future. Okay, that's my honest opinion. It's about investing in the future. If you believe what I'm saying today, you would go home and think hard whether or not you should buy and invest in Bitcoin. Okay. It's a new revolutionary global asset class. Okay, I explained this, the revolutionary aspect. It's a new way to own things. So prior to Bitcoin, you could only own things physically or by identity. So now for the first time in our lives, in our society, we can own things by information. Okay, it's a digital asset for digital age. There's no doubt we're living in a digital age with the internet, but for the first time we have a truly, truly digital asset. It's real digital money, okay? All right, let's now go to some of the bad stuff, the challenges for Bitcoin. A lot of challenges, okay? What are the top challenges with Bitcoin?
Onboarding.
One at a time.
Onboarding.
Adoption, scaling, it's easily stolen, value, fluctuating, a lot of challenges, okay? But I'm talking about some from the government perspective, okay? One of the most common questions I get is, what do Chinese regulators think of Bitcoin? Right? Are you guys curious?
I am.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to answer the question, what global regulators think about Bitcoin. It turns out it's the same thing. It's the same answer, okay? I'll tell you about what global regulators think about Bitcoin. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right, most people take notes here. So, it's decentralized. It's not a real currency. It violates foreign currency controls. There's a lot of money laundering. There's a lack of real identity. Bitcoin's used for fraud, a lot of pyramid schemes, hacking, security risks, ICO regulation tokens, taxation issues, nightmare, corruption and graft, speculative trading, market crashes, price fluctuations, and it competes with government crypto. Think about that. All these problems, it's a lot. There's probably more. That's why governments hate it. Let's go. Do you have time to go through each one? Sure. Decentralized. That means they don't have the master key. They can't print more. They can't confiscate Bitcoins. They can't stop the transaction. If Osama bin Laden had Bitcoins, too bad. He can get to spend it however he wants. They hate it. The governments hate it. It's not a real currency. It competes with their issued money. It doesn't matter if it's the US dollar, the British pound, or the euro, or Zimbabwe currency. It violates foreign currency controls. This is really old school. The notion that a country can control the capital inflow and outflow, it's so old school. It's so old school. So I think it's going to go away in my lifetime. China still has anomaly, but it's going to go away. Okay, money laundering. This is also one of my pet peeves. What is money laundering? I'll go into a slide on that later. Okay, lack of real identity. They hate it. What they hate is not the lack of real identity. It's when something has identity, they insert themselves as a check. Right? Think about it. Think about those TSA agents. The one who checks your ID before you go through security. That guy has a job because your airline tickets are tied to your name. Imagine airline tickets that don't have name. It's just a ticket, like a movie ticket. Well, you just go through. Right? Maybe one day they'll even have real name requirements for movies. Wouldn't that be scary? Right? I mean, really, that's a scary proposal. Yeah. It's like they don't know what movies you watch. Right? They might do that one day. Okay? So real identity it's a double-edged sword. Okay? Used for fraud. Of course, it's used for fraud. So is the U.S. dollar. So is the euro. Pyramid schemes, of course, because they're just fraudsters out there that try to scam people. And Bitcoin is not helping nor hurting that. Does that make sense? If Bitcoin disappeared, pyramid scheme fraudsters will still what? They'll still be around. Okay? Hacking security risk, same thing. Right? This actually, to me, this is the bright light of Bitcoin. Think about it. When was the last time people tried to hack your airline miles? When was the last time people tried to steal your hotel reward points? They don't bother. It's worthless. The fact that hackers are stealing and hacking Bitcoins from exchanges, it's a good thing. That means this stuff is valuable. It's really valuable. Okay? So everything has two sides. You got to think about the other side. ICO regulation, this is really tough. This is really scary. SEC regulators will come in hard on ICOs and tokens, okay? Taxation issues. It's not a problem. I pay taxes, you should pay taxes. We're not saying with Bitcoin you should avoid taxes. That's not what I'm saying. But even without Bitcoin, people are still what? Avoiding taxes. Okay? So Bitcoin is not making it easier to avoid taxes, okay? Corruption and graft, same concept. It's true. I have direct first-hand evidence. I know people. No, so let me clarify. It's not technically not first-hand because I'm not involved in it. So it's not me giving corruption. But I've heard real stories where government officials are taking bribes in Bitcoin. Wow. And people are paying off politicians using Bitcoin. It's the truth. It's happening.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry. You don't like it? I'm sorry.
In some cases, they might not accept it more than $25 if they work for you.
Yeah, but the point is, we are in a different world,
Yeah.
right? So it's like you can hate it, but we're here. It's happening. Okay, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not endorsing it, but I'm just saying that's what it is. Speculative trading, same thing. Prices will go up and down. That's a reality. Just like the stock market, the real estate market. I mean, is Bitcoin any worse than the real estate market, the housing market, or the stock market, or the bond market? You know, it's not. It's hard to say, right? Market crashes. Yes, of course, we've seen huge ups and downs. Since the peak of Bitcoin in December 2017 to now, 6 months later, Bitcoin has lost 2/3 of its value. That's crazy. But then to remind you, in the last 4 years, it's gone up 10 times. Do I mind? I don't mind. You know, give me a chance to invest in something that go up 10 times and then lose 2/3 of the value. Actually, it's gone up 10 times despite losing 2/3 of the value. If it didn't lose 2/3 of the value, it'd be 30 times, right? So competition with government crypto, that they hate that too. Okay, let's keep going. There's a global pattern to suppress Bitcoin, okay? They're going to regulate exchanges. They're going to ban bank transfers and transactions. They're controlling ICOs and token issuance. They're requiring proof of funds. They're doing a lot of KYC and compliance stuff, limiting transfers, and also creating FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay, globally, it's either coordinated or uncoordinated. I don't give a damn. Globally, the people who are in power are attacking Bitcoin from all angles. And these are just some of the angles, okay? And it's gonna continue. It's gonna continue because they don't get it. It's like, they're like the three monkeys. They don't wanna speak about it. They'll never mention it by name. They don't want to see it. They don't wanna hear about it, right? It's like, they think that the problem will go away. The problem won't go away because the technology is here. Bitcoin is actually freedom of money for the people. It empowers the people, empowers us, citizens of the society. Free citizens of a free country, okay? If you're enslaved, it's kind of sucky, okay? They empower that. So my next slide is about, we're going to talk about what is money laundering. So it turns out there's no good answer. In the laws, in the U.S. code, whatever, civil law, they talk about money laundering being a felony, you go to jail and stuff like that. But it's really vague. There's no clear, you ask bankers, they'll say it's illegal, but what is exactly money laundering? Because you know what the nasty truth is? They only enforce it in selective cases. Two people could be doing the same thing, and the one that they deem the bad guy will get subpoenaed and will get charged with money laundering charges, whereas the other good guy, won't have money laundering charges against him. It's really bad. It's really, really terrible, selective enforcement. So recently, some Trump government official got wire fraud charges, right? Basically, it's money laundering charges. What he did, receiving millions of dollars of payment from foreign companies. I've received money from foreign companies, but if I end up on the shit list, then they will charge me with, you know what I'm saying? They'll charge me with wire fraud. It's so easy. A month ago, I was registering for a World Series of Poker. The main event is $10,000 buy-in, okay? So this year I made some money, so I'm gonna go play the poker. Blow away $10,000, okay? Yeah, no, it is.